So, I know that the vast majority of you have been to the zoo at some point in your life, whether it be with your parents when you were little or when you've been on a field trip with your science class. Or if you haven't been to the zoo, you've probably heard about it from someone or somewhere. Like you've seen billboards for it when you're going on a trip with your family, or you've seen commercials for it, ads for it on the computer. Zoos are a common place to take kids, and they're just ads for them everywhere. But did you ever think about how they've changed over time and what they used to be like? A lot of people don't think about things like this because they think, oh, I can just learn about animals if I wanted to and where they've came from like television shows or magazines that come in the mail for them. But the Discovery Channel won't tell you about how zoos and how they've changed. They just talk about the animals. You can't hear about how they've changed over time from a TV channel. Zoos have changed immensely over the past 2,000 years, and because of that, their benefits, purpose, and usage is completely different. Zoos have always been thought of something fun that you can do with your family, but they're not just for fun anymore, and they're not just somewhere you can just observe our wildlife. Zoos are now contributing to the conservation of more than a dozen animal species all over the globe that are now endangered. And even in the past 25 years, they have changed so much as what they used to be. Today, I'm just going to provide you with information that you probably didn't know about zoos and what they used to be like compared to what they are now. Starting as early as 2500 BCE, zoos have been around and been used for numerous purposes, such as when zoos were a place where Chinese rulers used them as private collections of wildlife, and even pharaohs in Egypt used them as a place to keep animals, to preserve them as gifts. And 2,000 years ago, they weren't even called a zoo. Back then, they were known as menageries, and these private collections of animals represented wealth and power to the public. Because if you had enough money to just keep all these animals to yourself, I mean, nobody can just afford to keep a zoo. So it just shows power back then, and it showed that you had a lot of money. Starting in the 1970s, zoos had educational components added to them that benefited scientific research, and they helped us manage breeding and observation of endangered species, because if we're able to observe the species and keep control of them, we're able to learn more about them, such as the anatomy and how the animals work and how they work in the wild. Whether you love or hate the idea of a zoo, they've changed in so many ways that like help our wildlife. After doing a lot of research, I personally have learned that zoos eliminated barred enclosures that they used to have, and the enclosures now are more naturalistic exhibits, and they have added habitat related furnishings that are more friendly for the animals. Zoos have also tied themselves to the Species Survival Plan, which is also known as the SSP, to help us maintain the control and the breeding of endangered species all over the globe. Now we can talk about how exactly zoos used to be and how they used to be made, because that's what you came to listen for. They have always had enclosures just like they do today, but a long time ago they were small, uncomfortable for the animals, and they were even made of concrete. That was just it. That was only concrete. These enclosures were just made to keep the animals inside and away from the public and away from endangering the people who own them. Now exhibits are large, they're open, they've been made more comfortable for the animals, and by adding habitat-friendly features such as grass, water, and moats for hoofed animals, and they've even gotten creative by adding piano wire to some of the exhibits for the wild birds to perch on to make them feel more comfortable. Safety for the public is still a huge concern, and it's been made sure that the public is safe from the animals by using thick glass so we can still observe the animals. And the fences are kept around them so that you don't get too close to the exhibits if they're not kept in there by glass. Some of the open exhibits are just separated by water, and so they need to make sure that the animals can't get to the public and harm them. While enclosures are now safer and more comfortable for the animals as well as to the public, conservation has taken a greater role and is being taken a lot more serious now that we're losing a lot of our wildlife due to habitat destruction. In the 1960s, conservation of endangered species started to be the main focus of zoos all around the globe. And zoos also help increase the awareness of endangered species and provide knowledge to the public. As you can see, zoos are now more beneficial to the public and to our wildlife, and they're not just used as something that we can just see as a private collection or something that we can just show our wealth. They show scientific research being advanced, and they show protection of the wildlife that we have remaining. While zoos may have been seen in the past as a fun day trip or somewhere you can take your family, they now are keeping endangered species safe and They're animal friendly. They're not as dangerous as they used to be, because just keeping an animal in concrete, is not safe for the animals. So next time you go to the zoo, try and imagine what they used to be like 2,000 years ago. You would be standing in an area full of concrete exhibits, and you could see that the animals were uncomfortable, and you can see that it wasn't anything like it is today. So next time you go to the zoo, just close your eyes and try to think of what it would be like 2,000 years ago.